All right, today we're jumping into something huge, the European Union's landmark AI Act. This thing is an absolute beast of legislation, trying to get its arms around artificial intelligence. But, before you can even think about writing the rules for a revolution, you have to start with something way more basic.
I mean, seriously, think about that. How on earth do you put guardrails on a technology that's moving faster than anything we have ever seen? A technology that's already weaving itself into, well, everything, from our hospitals to our social media feeds. Where do you even begin?
Well, the EU's answer is actually kind of brilliant. You start by writing the dictionary. And that is exactly what Article 3 of the AI Act is. It's a legally binding, official dictionary that defines all the key terms. It's all about creating a shared language so everyone is on the same page. So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll see why this AI dictionary is so dang important. Then, we'll meet the key players in this whole ecosystem. After that, we'll get into how the Act actually defines the technology itself. Then we'll tackle the really risky stuff. And finally, we'll look at the actual rules of the game that make it all work.
Okay, so why obsess over definitions? Well, just imagine trying to regulate traffic if we didn't have an official, agreed-upon definition for red light or speed limit. It would be total chaos, right? It's the exact same idea with AI. Before you can make any rules, the developer building the code and the regulator enforcing the law have to agree on what the words actually mean.
And here's the kicker. These aren't just suggestions from a textbook. Every single one of these definitions is legally binding. They're designed to be airtight, to close loopholes and get rid of any gray areas. Because when an AI system messes up, and it will, this dictionary is what lets regulators follow the breadcrumbs and figure out who exactly is accountable.
So let's put this dictionary to work. The Act uses these precise definitions to map out every single person and company in the AI supply chain. Because it's not just about the folks who invent the AI, it's about everyone who has a hand in bringing it into the real world. First up, we've got the provider. You can think of the provider as the original architect, the creator. They're the ones who actually develop the AI system or the powerful model it runs on. This is ground zero for responsibility. And right here, you can see that whole chain of command. The provider builds it, then you've got importers and distributors who bring it into the market, and then, and this is a really key term, you have the deployer. Now, this isn't just you or me playing with an app. A deployer is a professional organization, like a hospital using AI to read scans, or a bank using it to decide on loans. Each of these steps comes with its own set of rules and responsibilities.
So obviously, if you're going to regulate AI, you've got to define what AI even is. And this was a massive challenge. I mean, how do you write a definition that won't be obsolete in 6 months? The Act solution was to stop focusing on how AI is built and instead define it by what it does, its ability to act with some level of autonomy to make predictions or decisions.
And this is where the Act gets really smart. It makes this critical distinction between a model and a system. The best way to think about it is with a car analogy. A general-purpose AI model, like a GPT-4, is the high-performance engine. It's incredibly powerful, it's flexible, but it's just the engine. The general-purpose AI system is the whole car. It's the final application, like a customer service chatbot, that puts that engine to work for a specific task. You need different rules for the engine than you do for the car, and that's exactly what the AI Act does. All right, now we're getting into the really sensitive territory. The AI Act uses its definitions to draw these very clear, very firm red lines around technologies that could seriously threaten our fundamental rights. And these definitions have to be incredibly precise. Let's start with an emotion recognition system. Now, pay close attention to the wording here. It's not just about seeing if someone is smiling. It's about inferring their internal emotions or intentions based on their physical data. The Act singles this out because of how it could be misused in things like job interviews or at border crossings, where the risk of bias is just massive. Next up is remote biometric identification. The magic words here are at a distance and without their active involvement. So this is not you unlocking your phone with your face. This is about identifying you in a public square from a camera you don't even know is there. It's the kind of tech we associate with mass surveillance, and that's why it's so heavily restricted. And then we have deepfake, a term we all know. The Act defines it very clearly to get a handle on the creation and spread of this kind of convincing AI-generated content.
The whole point here is that any system creating a deepfake will have to follow strict transparency rules, like making it crystal clear that the content is not real. This quote really just says it all. By making sure that the definition of a serious incident includes not just physical damage, but also a violation of someone's fundamental rights, well, it connects all these technical legal terms directly to real-world human harm. It's a huge statement about what this law is truly trying to protect. Okay, so you've got your dictionary, you've identified the risks, but definitions don't mean much if you don't have rules for enforcement. So this last part is all about the action words of the AI Act, what authorities can actually do to keep people safe, and, just as important, how they can support innovation that's done the right way. We just talked about this, but let's look at the whole definition. A serious incident is not just a bug in the code. I mean, look at the scope here. It covers everything from death and serious injury to destroying property, wrecking the environment, taking down the power grid, or, like we just saw, violating our basic rights. It just shows you how broadly the Act is thinking about AI-driven harm. And if things go south, the Act defines two main responses. A withdrawal is basically stopping the sale. It's preventing a bad AI system from ever hitting the market in the first place. A recall is when the product is already out there, in use, and you have to get it back, either by disabling it or having it returned. Two different tools for two different kinds of problems. But it's not all sticks. There are carrots, too. The Act defines things like the AI regulatory sandbox to actually encourage innovation. And this is a perfect example of the balance they're going for. It's a safe, controlled environment where companies, especially the smaller ones, can test their new AI ideas with regulators watching over their shoulder, helping them build safety and compliance in from day one. So, when you boil it all down, what's the one big thing to take away from this whole dictionary? It's really this simple. Clear definitions create clear accountability. The entire point of spending all this time meticulously defining every player, every technology, and every possible harm is to build an unbroken chain of responsibility. But that leaves us with one final gigantic question. The definitions we just went through took years of debate to finalize, but AI is taking giant leaps forward every few months. So can a legal dictionary, no matter how carefully it's written, really keep pace with a technology that is literally redefining itself as we speak? That is the billion-dollar question. Thanks for joining me.